I'd like to call to order the January 13th meeting of the Shelby Township Planning Commission. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Dallow.
Here.
Ms. DeSico. Here. Mr. Bernardi.
Here.
Ms. Casali. Here. Mr. Vire, absent. Mr. Wexmonski.
Here.
Mr. Rapone, absent. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
By DeSico, support by Dallow. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the November 25th regular meeting. If there are no corrections, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Dallow, support by DeSico. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. On our somewhat light, actually somewhat very light agenda today, we've got 3 items under new business. The first being the annual report and work program. I'll turn over to Mr. Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first meeting in January is when we customarily provide this to you for your review. It's kind of an opportunity to look backward and look forward simultaneously. Last year, we processed 308 applications, and they're kind of detailed in that one table in the annual report. That's an increase over the last 5 years. We've seen a gradual increase over time. At one point, Kathy can correct me if I'm wrong, I think we processed over 500 applications in 1 year. That's site plans, zoning board of appeals, et cetera. Usually, at some points, the average was about 60 site plans a year. This year, we were down to 17 after 25 of last year. Sign applications were about 2/3 of our total number of applications. We had 17 site plans, down 25 from the last year. A couple of major projects. We had 2 industrial projects, which collectively added about 130,000 square feet of new and manufacturing space. We had 8 residential projects encompassing 310 single-family lots and 778 multiple family. The largest of those multiple family was the Shelby Manor Senior Housing on Shelby Road. Some other activities from last year, you have zoning text amendments, which we completed last year, we're going to review tonight. We did a complete inventory of all existing retail development in the township. And I haven't shared that with you yet, but it was done last year. Square footage, zoning, acreage, all 36 square miles. And so we have that identified, and we'll have that to you probably next month just to take a look at part of a master plan update. We cooperated with the county, putting some of our prime industrial sites on their website to market for the future, namely Cherry Creek Corporate Park on north of Walmart. So that property is now on the county's website for new development, and that was a pilot project. We were the first community to be added to that. And we also, for the first time, assisted in the preparation of a capital improvements plan for the township. So it was a pretty busy year. Even though the development activity wasn't that busy, there was other things that we were doing. The work program, which is the next one, looks at what we want to do for the following year. And there are 7 major department functions which are listed in there, and those include current planning, long-range planning, development regulations, and there's several more. For each of the work program elements, there's a goal, there's some objectives, and then there's what we hope to do over the next year. Some of the major accomplishments projects we want to do is start the master plan update, including a special study for the Shelby Center area, which is at 24 in Van Dyke, complete the zoning ordinance amendments, which we gave you, adopt a comprehensive animal regulatory ordinance, because we've had many problems with addressing regulations on animals. Part are in the zoning ordinance, part in a regulatory ordinance, and it's been confusing and difficult to deal with that. We're starting the capital improvements program this week with a meeting with all department heads. And we didn't talk too much about community development block grant funding here at the Planning Commission. It's more of a board function, but we now get money every 3rd year, and we'll get a lump sum of funding, maybe several $100,000 for grant purposes, which we can use in low and moderate income neighborhoods. That money will be available in 2015, so we have to do our planning for that to identify some projects this year. And then we want to do a complete analysis of that retail inventory, which, again, maybe I'll share with you at the next meeting just for information purposes.
Okay.
I think we have enough to do for the following year.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions for Mr. Nguyen?
Mr. Chairman,
Rick Monsky.
in the planning zoning department, on the about 4 or 5 pages in, site plan summary,
Yes.
last column, status, does that represent the status from the Planning Commission? Or
Yeah.
is that the status as finally determined by the trustees?
No, the site plans are fully the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. The trustees don't, those that are special land uses get referred to the trustees for final review. Those that are strictly site plans are your jurisdiction entirely.
Okay.
And that would reflect the status at your level.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? Next, zoning ordinance text amendments. Mr. Nguyen.
Thank you. Every year, we typically prepare a series of amendments to the zoning text, which is the large document right here. All the major development regulations that we deal with are included in there. And we do this to periodically look at sections of the ordinance that aren't working very well or maybe outdated or require some clarification or modification. We do that largely in conjunction with the Code Enforcement Department and the Building Department. They're at the sharp point of the spear, so to speak. So if a particular provision doesn't work well, we'll know it from, when they have to go out and enforce things. So we've got some suggestions from them, and then we went through and identified 27 sections of the ordinance that required some modification. Let me just, and then there's a two-page summary where we've identified this article number, the section number, a general brief description, and the page where you'll find that referenced in the larger document. And we followed pretty much a similar format we've used over the years with a few little tweaks. You'll see each section is referenced in bold, and then where there's a change, if it's a strikeout or we're deleting text, we've identified it with a strikeout as well as a shading pattern. And then the new text is shown in a red font. And then following that, there's a text box with an explanation as to why we're changing it. So it usually helps to say, why are you doing this? And here's the explanation behind it. It wasn't my intention to go over all these tonight. The intention was to introduce those to you. Mr. Rekmasi was kind enough to give me some corrections he's reviewed. Building Department has them. Code Enforcement has them. I'm getting their corrections. Once we get all those, I will then schedule the public hearing. But I didn't want to spring these on you without the opportunity to do that. So if you find something you think needs to be corrected, even if it's as simple as a typo or those things, I'd like to know, because I'd like to have this in a final form for our next meeting.
Great. Do we put these out on the website?
Oh, we can, absolutely. I think it's a good idea to do that.
For review, yeah.
Absolutely. Typically, people don't comment on these things, but we would prefer that people comment on it.
Right. At least they can say, they have the opportunity.
Most of these I would categorize as housekeeping amendments. There's nothing major, like we're changing major development regulations. But for us, these are major when we can streamline some things. Jerry, you see this already at the ZBA. We've taken work away from the ZBA by fixing some provisions in the ordinance that no longer requires somebody to go get a variance. If we're approving a variance for the same thing year after year, then it suggests to us that we ought to change the ordinance.
Right.
I think over time, we've seen the ZBA cases decline to only those that are really necessary anymore, which I think is good for everybody. So we'll have this for public hearing at the next meeting.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Nguyen?
Mr. Nguyen, you have one of the vehicle parking
Yes.
section. Maybe you need to look at it, because at one of the meeting, we verify the business use in the residential. And I want to see how can that tie with this vehicle. If somebody have a landscaping business, have a vehicle, a truck that exceed 8,000, and he park it there, how can we tie allowing the residential to do business at home to not park their car in their lot?
Some of it relates to, let me give you just a brief explanation. If somebody wanted to open a landscape business and run it out of their home, we wouldn't allow that. Sometimes people have commercial vehicles that they use, and they just bring them home at night. That becomes another one of their vehicles. So there's a fine line there, which we have to distinguish. And this suggested text came from the code enforcement officer. But generally, we try to discourage. The home occupations we allow are meant to be pretty innocuous, that you wouldn't even know they were there. But I will look at that again to make sure we're being consistent with our other regulations. That's a good point.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right, seeing none, we'll go on to the next item, which is election of officers. As you all recall, at the first meeting, every year, we elect a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. And having said that, we'll start off with, I'll take nominations for the position of chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Moore.
I nominate you, Jerome Moffett, for the chairman for 2014.
Okay, thank you. Is there support?
I support.
Moved, supported. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? I'll move the nominations be closed and the unanimous ballot cast. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Next is vice chair. Is there nomination? Is there nomination?
I'd like to nominate Liz to stay as a vice chair. She's been doing a great job in there.
Okay, so Ms. Casali for another term as vice chair. Is there support of that motion?
I support.
Moved and supported. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll move that nominations be closed and a unanimous ballot be cast. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And then finally, secretary. Nomination,
Mr. Chair,
Sally?
I nominate Raquel Moore for another year as the secretary to the Planning Commission.
Okay, is there support of that motion?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll move that nominations be closed and a unanimous ballot be cast. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Next, we have December monthly administrative approval summary from the planning director's report.
Chairman, I think last month we had, I think it was 12 sign applications and 2 temporary use permits. Usually sign applications are down in December. We're picking up with temporary signs this month. We'll probably double that amount easily.
Okay,
That's it.
great. And if there's anything else for good and welfare, if not, I'll entertain one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We're adjourned.
No meeting in 2 weeks. Next meeting will be the second Tuesday, or second Monday in February, because nothing came in today. Today was a deadline.
Wow.